The Attorney General walks into a trafficking network hearing, carrying a binder full of personal insults. Survivors are seated right behind her. Right there. In white. Ignored. Then, Representative Jasmine Crockett takes the floor. No grandstanding, no shouting match, no gotcha questions, just facts, files, receipts, and a direct message to the victims watching. Watch this moment because it slices through the noise.
Gentlelady is recognized.
Thank you. I seek unanimous consent to introduce into the record the research that Representative Kamlager-Dove and I referenced concerning the threat of right-wing domestic terrorism, which the Department of Justice scrubbed from its website in September.
Without objection, the gentlelady from
Thank
Texas
you.
is recognized.
Thank you so much, Mr. Chairman. And to be clear, I'm not going to ask any questions of this witness because this witness has revealed that she has no intentions of answering questions. But instead, I'm going to ask some very basic questions really quickly of my colleague, Becca Ballant, if she will answer right or wrong, raping children.
Wrong.
Right or wrong, killing random citizens.
Definitely wrong.
Right or wrong, enriching yourself as the sitting president of the United States.
Definitely wrong.
Okay, thank you, because I probably never would have got that with our witness. Our witness who somehow is a lawyer but does not understand how it works with witnesses. I'm not really sure what law school she went to and what all kind of cases she tried, but typically when you come into a space and somebody's a witness, then they sit there and they answer questions instead of asking questions. And then we also have this objection that we use as lawyers called non-responsive when a witness fails to actually answer the question. But nevertheless, let me address the survivors because that's exactly who they are. They are not victims, they are survivors. Let me say thank you for having more courage and moral clarity in your pinky fingers than the entire Department of Justice. We are currently the laughing stock of the world, partially because of the failed leadership within the DOJ as we see kings and queens falling everywhere around the world. But we don't know the basics of right and wrong in this country because it's not about partisanship. And that's why I applaud Thomas Massie, because he's the only person on the Republican side that has a backbone and knows how to stand up to corruption. But nevertheless, let me keep going. My Democratic colleagues have been attacked this entire committee hearing. They have been lied on. And frankly, the American people weren't looking for that. They were looking for answers about the corruption that they see coming from this administration. In the written testimony of this witness, of this particular witness, she stated that when she took office, she had two main goals. The first was to end the weaponization of justice, and second, to return the department to its core mission. Not only have you lied about both, you've intentionally done the exact opposite. You're spending more taxpayer resources arresting journalists than you are prosecuting pedophiles and creeps. In fact, your boss, the President of the United States, stated that this administration, quote, took the freedom of speech away. And at your direction, DOJ has arrested Don Lemon and Georgia Fort. And I might add that y'all actually had a judge that rejected y'all for trying to arrest Don Lemon before, just like the grand jury rejected y'all as it relates to Senator Kelly, just like a grand jury rejected y'all as it relates to Senator Slotkin, just like the case against Tish James was dismissed and the case against Mr. Comey was dismissed. I completely don't get how it is that you're sitting at the top of DOJ because you don't seem to be good at your job. You're spending more taxpayer resources arresting these journalists. In fact, we know after Georgia Fort and Don Lemon were arrested, we know that there were homes of journalists that were raided. We know that threatened prosecution against students protesting your actions and forced tech companies to remove apps used to track ISIS activities. But let's circle back to you protecting pedophiles and creeps, because I want to talk about the president and his possible involvement with Jeffrey Epstein. Now, I don't know what the president might have done with Jeffrey Epstein, but unlike this administration, I believe that facts matter, so let's talk about the facts. Fact number one, Donald Trump is one of the most named people in the Epstein files. At least 5,000 files contains more than 38,000 references to Trump, his wife, or Mar-a-Lago. Fact number two, Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell made young girls available to Trump on multiple occasions. For example, according to this file, Ghislaine Maxwell presented a young girl to President Trump who spent more than 20 minutes apparently flirting with her. Here's another example. This shows notes from FBI investigators that describe Jeffrey Epstein transporting a victim to Mar-a-Lago to meet with President Trump, where he bragged to Trump that, quote, "this is a good one." Now, I'm not saying that the president is a pedophile, but there is a lot of evidence in these files that suggests that he's very close friends with a lot of men who are pedophiles. What's crazy about all of this is just that this is a big cover-up. And this administration is engaged in it. In fact, this administration is complicit. But there are numerous others, like how the DOJ is attempting to obstruct justice in the investigation of the rogue agents who have murdered American citizens, or how the DOJ seized voter data from Fulton County in an attempt to steal the 2026 midterm elections, or how federal agents have Tom Homan on tape accepting a bribe and your agency killed the investigation, or how your agency is ready to give the president a $230 million payday, which is unconstitutional. The Constitution is clear. The president shall not receive any payment except his salary while in office. The fact of the matter is that you will be remembered as one of the worst attorney generals in history. An attorney general who has prioritized obstruction over justice, corruption over the law, fealty to the president over loyalty to the Constitution. And Mr. Chairman, I will yield.
Gentlelady yields. Gentleman from Missouri is recognized. Excuse me, gentleman from Kansas, the Attorney General, former Attorney General, Mr. Schmidt is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and General Bondi, thanks for being here. Did you have anything you wanted to say before we talk?
I do. Thank you, Congressman. Thank you, my friend, for many years. I find it interesting that she didn't even want to try, Congresswoman Crockett, to ask any questions, because she certainly did not condemn her leader, Hakeem Jeffries, for taking money from Jeffrey Epstein after Epstein was convicted. And I will be brief to give you your time, Congressman. This is what she didn't want to talk about. Texas, from Cuba, convicted, homicide, arson, weapon offense.
Convicted.
You know,
So what we
Estrada,
talking about? Convict
Texas,
some of these
convicted,
perpetrators that
homicide.
rape these women that are
Chairman,
sitting
time
behind
belongs-
you,
time
that
belongs
you
to the
refuse
gentleman
to even
from
acknowledge
Kansas.
they are here.
Time belongs to the
Texas.
gentleman from Kansas.
Mr. Chairman, could I have a few seconds
You
back
bet,
to make
you
up
bet.
for the yelling? Thank you. General,
Thank
did you have anything
Congress.
further to say?
Texas, convicted of homicide. Cecil Joseph, from Dominican Republic. Texas, convicted for kidnapping, rape. Khalid Khan, from Afghanistan. That's why they want to talk about Epstein and not what's happening in their own states.
Thank you, General, and thank you for being here. And this has been quite a spectacle to observe today. I think it's sad. I ran for Congress because I thought we had serious problems in this country we wanted to try to fix together. And this performance today, not yours, General, but some of my colleagues, has not shored up my confidence that we are up to the task. You and I served together for 8 years when you were Attorney General of Florida, and I in Kansas. You served professionally. I'm glad to be able to serve
What
with
you
you in
just
these new
witnessed
roles.
was a
and I'm-
sitting attorney general responding to a detailed, evidence-based presentation about 38,000 references to the president in criminal investigation files. By holding up mugshots of immigrants from Crockett's state. That's it. That was the counter-argument. Not documents. Not rebuttal evidence. Not clarification. Mugshots. That's the move. That's all she had. So here's what you probably didn't catch from the viral clip. First, the burn book. According to reporting from Courthouse News Service, the New Republic, and the Associated Press, she came into this hearing with a massive white binder containing what Florida Congressman Jared Moskowitz called political dirt. Individualized pages on every Democratic member of the committee. The Associated Press reports that after nearly every exchange with a Democrat, she would pivot, ask the next Republican for time, flip through the binder, and then start rattling off crimes from that Democrat's district or launch into personal attacks. And here's where it gets even more dramatic. Representative Thomas Massie, a Republican, later wrote that her staff had prepared flashcards with personalized insults, but she couldn't memorize them. So you could literally watch her shuffle through the stack to find the right one for each member. That's not a partisan attack. That's a Republican describing the Attorney General. Now here's the part that should make you pause. Representative Pramila Jayapal said the binder appeared to include a printout labeled with her name, showing what looked like her search history inside the secure congressional reading room. Let me repeat that. The Department of Justice may have been tracking which investigative files members of Congress were accessing, and then brought that information into a public hearing as ammunition. Jayapal called it totally inappropriate. Said it crossed the line. That's not straight fire. That's chilling. Now let's talk about those numbers Crockett cited. They're real. The New York Times used a custom search tool and found over 5,300 files containing more than 38,000 references to Trump, his wife, Mar-a-Lago, and related terms in the latest document release alone. The FBI interview notes Crockett referenced about a financier transporting a victim to Mar-a-Lago and making that, "This is a good one, huh?" Comment, those are actual FBI documents now in the public record. And remember, this administration initially resisted releasing these files until Congress passed the Transparency Act and forced their hand. Now about that swipe at Hakeem Jeffries. She referenced a 2013 fundraising email sent by a consulting firm. According to factcheck.org and ABC News, there's zero evidence the financier ever donated to Jeffries. Zero evidence Jeffries knew about the email. And Jeffries says he never met him. It was a mass email blast. Compare that to 38,000 references across thousands of FBI files. That's the comparison she's banking on. And she knows it doesn't survive 5 seconds of scrutiny, which is exactly why she pivoted straight to mugshots. Now here's the key to understanding this entire hearing. The strategy was deflection, and it was pre-planned. According to PBS News, NBC News, Roll Call, and the Associated Press, she spent 5 hours refusing to answer direct questions about the files. She called the hearing theatrics. She called it a circus. She bragged about the stock market. And she personally attacked nearly every Democrat who questioned her. She even called Thomas Massie, again a Republican co-author of the Transparency Law, a failed politician with Trump derangement syndrome. That's not just drama. That's a brutal clash inside her own party. Massie responded, "This cover-up spans decades, and you are responsible for this portion of it." Let that sink in. Now let's talk about enforcement priorities. The Department of Justice charged journalists Don Lemon and Georgia Fort for covering a church protest, after 2 federal judges found no evidence of criminal behavior. They went to a grand jury anyway. Meanwhile, when Representative Jerry Nadler asked how many accomplices connected to the financier had been charged, she wouldn't answer. Pending investigations. No numbers. No names. 0 new charges. They detained a journalist at a hotel in the middle of the night, but not a single accomplice charged. So what does that tell you? It suggests a calculated decision about who deserves prosecution and who deserves protection. If you're a journalist covering an immigration protest, federal agents might show up at 2 a.m. If you're a powerful man whose name appears thousands of times in investigation files tied to a convicted criminal, the Department of Justice may redact your name and release survivors' private materials instead. Survivors' names were published. Identifying information released. According to the New York Times, nearly 40 unredacted compromising photos of young women. Meanwhile, names of potential accomplices were blacked out. Massie said they corrected some redactions within 40 minutes of me catching you red-handed. That's not transparency. That's getting caught. The Transparency Act required all unclassified files to be released by December 19th, 2025. They missed the deadline by more than a month. Representative Jamie Raskin says roughly 3 million documents are still being withheld. 3 million. Ghislaine Maxwell was quietly transferred to a minimum security prison. 0 new accomplices charged. Survivors who attended the hearing said they felt degraded. And the Attorney General spent 5 hours flipping through a binder of pre-written insults. This isn't about partisanship. Thomas Massie proved that. This is about whether the Department of Justice enforces the law or shields the president from it. During the hearing, she called Trump the greatest president in American history. That's not testimony. That's an audition. And it's worth remembering that as Florida's Attorney General, she dropped an investigation into Trump University after receiving a $25,000 donation from the Trump Foundation, later deemed improper and repaid with a fine. Massie told reporters she didn't answer anything and instead talked about the Dow Jones and the NASDAQ. He even suggested a future attorney general might need to investigate this Department of Justice for not complying with the Transparency Act. Read that again. A A Republican suggesting the next attorney general might prosecute this attorney general's department. Normal stuff. Here's where we are. Roughly 3.5 million pages released. Millions more allegedly withheld. 0 new accomplices charged. Survivors feeling dismissed. And a white binder sitting on the desk. Organized alphabetically. Ready for political attacks instead of legal answers. Crockett said she would be remembered as one of the worst attorneys general in history. After this hearing, that might not be hyperbole. To be fair, she did come prepared, just not to answer questions. More burn book energy than book of law energy. If this breakdown helped you cut through the chaos, make sure you like the video and drop your thoughts in the comments. Share it with someone who needs more than just a viral clip. Hit the bell so you don't miss updates, and subscribe to support independent coverage. Thanks for watching. Stay sharp, stay informed, stay free.